Hello. Back in April this year, I tried something new in preparation for a second lifetime attempt at 100 miles. Ran 111 miles in 7 days, and it worked. So for my third 100 miler on September 12th and 13th, I tried something different. Now, as I get more of these 100 milers done, I've only done 3, attempted 3, got 3 done, so that's pretty good. But theoretically, as this process continues, I should be doing less rehab work on myself and more strengthening and conditioning in general. And prior to this most recent attempt, I had read Danny Dreyer's Chi running book again, and something that stuck in my mind from his book was that he only trained about 35 to 40 miles per week back in the days when he was a nationally ranked ultramarathoner. So obviously, now that my confidence is up, I thought maybe I should be backing off on those miles. Now, I did not back off that much, but I just wanted to share what I did and how it worked. I ended up running 21 consecutive days, which I believe was the first time I'd ever done that, for a total of over 155 miles. I used minimum daily distances for this. Really, when you're doing 100 milers, micromanaging the distances is pretty meaningless. So basically, I'm back on August 9th, I ran 5 miles, August 10th, 6 miles, and then starting August 11th, I ran a minimum, these are minimums, a minimum of 10 miles per day for 10 consecutive days. So that was something I'd never tried before. 10 miles a day, every day, 10 consecutive days. And I believe for at least 2 or 3 of those days, I broke that up into 2 a day. So maybe 5 in the morning and then 5 at lunch or whatever. And then on my birthday, August 25th, I did more than 10 miles on some tough trails. But on the days that were not 10 miles, generally I was running about 5 miles minimum. Now, I don't really care for training plans, and I don't want people to take this as a recommendation or a training plan. Everything's relative to where you are in your training and what your goals are. So September 29th was the last consecutive day of running, the 21 days in a row. And after that, I did taper pretty heavily. I tend to taper more than most people, and for that final week before the 100 miler, did just very minimal running, maybe a couple of 5Ks at a slow pace. So how did it work? I ran a smooth, flat, relatively cool course. I don't think it ever got above 70 degrees, and it was probably pretty close to 40 with the wind chill at night. Pretty high finish rate for this particular race, so it was a relatively easy 100 miler. But I got a excuse me, a PR by over 2.5 hours. I missed my sub 24-hour goal, but it was by far my fastest. And where some magic really happened was during the last 33 miles, I felt really good, but especially the last 13 miles, we had chips on for this race. So there was obviously a mat at the 87-mile aid station. But anyways, there were, I believe, 72 people finished the race. I was 42nd in rank, so closer to the middle of the pack than I've ever been in a 100 miler. And for the final 13 miles, I was the 10th fastest runner out there, which was just unheard of. It felt really good to be running that well. People were surprised at that particular, that late into 100 miles. So I think, running 10 consecutive days, 10 miles a day, plus the 21-day overall plan, that had me practicing running in good form on very tired, on a very fatigued body. So that was probably a pretty ideal way to prep. Finishing that third 100 miler in about 1.5 years, I felt really good, not a single blister. I ran the entire race without socks in Huarache sandals. That was a first, doing both those things. And again, third 100 miler, never a blister. Several years now with no injuries, really no trips to the orthopedist, no chiropractors, etc. Just rock bottom, minimal expenses, self-coached. So getting into running 100-mile races potentially can be a very low-cost hobby. The next 100 miler that I'm going to attempt is the Tunnel Hill 100 in southern Illinois on November 14th. And with only about 8 weeks in between the last event and this upcoming event, there won't be any 100-mile training week. I've been running, I ran 4 days after the last 100 miler and felt really good. I ran the next day after that and then took a couple days off. So I've been running kind of 5 miles, 6 miles a day, quite a few days, although I still feel like I'm recovering in a sense from that last 100 miler. So my taper probably won't be as extreme this next time around, but I also won't train as intensely going into the taper. I remember reading in Born to Run years ago that speed should be a natural byproduct of running light, smooth, and easy. So I'm slowly kind of proving that. Again, at this third 100 miler, I really don't feel like I ever hit a wall. I never wanted to quit. I was never in great pain. I just try to maintain a pace that feels pretty good almost the entire 100 miles. And that seems to be paying off. Each race I'm getting a little faster. The next race will be in cooler temperatures, so maybe I can break 24 hours, who knows. But the main thing is to finish feeling good and not injured. There was one other thing I wanted to share on this idea of running 100 miles on largely gravel trails with no socks and only huaraches on my feet. There were a lot more times that I had to kind of shake little loose pieces of gravel out from between my skin and the top of the sandal. But as I learned to alter my stride just slightly to have in such a way that I was kicking up less of the gravel and getting less stuck in under my feet, that process was part of what helps a person run easier, lighter, smoother, and having less chance of getting blisters.